Ethan and I have been in love for 5 years. The day before the wedding, I found that he had saved tens of thousands of photos of the same girl in his cloud drive. There were also thousands of round-trip tickets to the same city abroad. I packed my luggage without saying a word and left on the wedding day. The bride ran away as she wished, but he went crazy. Chapter 1. I stared at the countless photos and screenshots of the plane tickets on the screen, my pupils trembling, my heartbeat almost jumping out of my chest. Are you really getting married? Not waiting for Luna to return home? I thought you were going to wait for her forever. His friend heard the news that we were getting married, and the words that slipped out rang in my ears. That was the first time I knew the name of Ethan's first love. Unfortunately, I only understood the meaning of his friend's words now. The cloud disk is updated every month, and the total number of photos we have been together for 5 years is not as many as the cloud disk uploaded at one time. Every time I wanted to take pictures to record our date, he always found various reasons to refuse. He said that we were together every day, and there would be plenty of opportunities in the future, so there was no need to take pictures. It was not until this moment that I realized that it was not unnecessary, but that I was not necessary to him. Staring at the different times on the watermarks of the photos, I took out my phone and found the chat records corresponding to the time of the photos. But I found that at that time Ethan either said that he was on a business trip or going to another place for training. His camera also disappeared at home with him. The lies in the records that were getting more and more fluent made my heart tremble. I suddenly turned off his computer, got up and rushed into the bedroom to pack my luggage and wanted to leave. But the moment I opened the closet, a familiar feeling hit me and almost suffocated me. Every piece of clothing in it had appeared on Luna in the photo just now. And these clothes were all gifts from Ethan. I slammed the closet door and squatted on the ground helplessly. Tears blurred my vision, and I sent a message to my boss with trembling hands. I said that I wanted to sign up for a foreign branch. He was silent for a long time after listening, and then replied, "It is a good thing for young people to be cautious. You can't get married impulsively. Then I will submit your information. You should have a good rest while waiting for the result." There was relief and emotion in his tone, but no surprise. It seems that it is an expected result that Ethan and I cannot go to the end. I hung up the phone, clicked on the ticket booking software, and was about to buy a ticket to go abroad tomorrow, when the sound of a door closing came from outside. I stood up with my hands on my knees and walked to the living room. The love in my eyes when I looked at him was gone. As usual, he kissed me gently on the forehead after returning home. But today he had an extra piece of cake in his hand. "I got off work early today, so I brought this for you. Try it. I have a class reunion later, so I have to go out for a while." I glanced at the chocolate mousse on the outer box. There was a flash of sarcasm in his eyes. "No, I have no appetite, and I'm allergic to chocolate." He was dazed for a moment, then remembered that I told him this sentence every year. But he didn't remember it every year. Seeing that I looked indifferent and didn't mean to be angry, he reached out and rubbed my head gently. "Sorry, I'm too busy with work recently. I'll buy you another one after the wedding tomorrow." I didn't know before, and I believed whatever he explained. But after seeing the photos, I understood why he loved chocolate. It was Luna who liked it. Being too busy at work was his ever-present excuse. The last update on the computer cloud disk was 3 days ago. I looked at his emotionless eyes and nodded slowly, not exposing his lies. I wanted to leave each other with the last dignity. Seeing that I didn't quarrel with him as before, he curled his lips and took out a necklace from his arms and put it in front of me. The moon inlaid with broken diamonds made my eyes sore. I accepted it expressionlessly and turned to walk into the bedroom. Throw the necklace into the drawer of the bedside table. Then take off the ring engraved with the moon pattern and put it in. In addition to the necklace with the moon pendant, there are also bracelets, earrings. I didn't know why he liked the moon pattern before, but now I know Luna's name. It's hard for me not to connect everything. Closing the drawer, his somewhat excited and expectant voice came from the living room. "Wear the jewelry I gave you at the wedding? A whole set of moon patterns must be very beautiful. Then you stay at home obediently. I'm going out to party, the last time before the wedding. I may come back a little late, don't wait for me." Chapter 2. I didn't say anything, hiding in the bedroom like a snail. I silently thought to myself that we will never have a wedding in our lifetime. With the sound of the door closing, I walked out and threw the cake into the trash can. I glimpsed the cabinet next to me, and the labels I had torn off the cake boxes for 5 years were lying quietly inside. It seemed to be silently mocking my one-man show. The things that I couldn't bear to throw away, even the wrapping paper, were the garbage that another person could easily throw away. I opened the cabinet and threw away everything inside. Then I started to pack my luggage for going abroad. In addition to clothes and jewelry, I could only take simple daily necessities. I found a lot of things while rummaging through the boxes. In the past 5 years, the gifts I gave to Ethan were randomly stuffed in various corners of the house by him. Many of them were even expired and the packaging was not even opened. No wonder he always evaded the question when I asked him, and then said he couldn't bear to use them. Now think about it, it should be just that he put them too casually and couldn't find them. His daily necessities all came from the same place of origin abroad. The country where Luna is. I put them into the trash can one by one, along with my love for him and my humble past self. When the suitcase was closed, Ethan's friend called me. Elise, Ethan is drunk, why don't you come and take him back? I'll send you the address. In the receiver, Ethan's hoarse voice called Luna. With pleading, with piety, with the joy of regaining what was lost. But there was no drunkenness. My breathing stagnated, and my heart stopped beating instantly. The other party hurriedly covered the phone and hung up the phone. I put the suitcase against the wall, hesitated for 2 seconds, and still took a taxi according to the location sent by his friend. This is the last time, since I have decided to leave, I don't want to leave any regrets. When I arrived at the door of the private room, the jokes and laughter inside came into my ears through the gap. Why is Luna back today? Did she hear about our Ethan? I will definitely not let you come in vain tonight. Through the glass, I clearly saw that Ethan's face was bold and wanton, which I had never seen before. His expectant eyes were fixed on the face of another woman. I had just seen that woman's face countless times on his computer. The diamond necklace on her neck was exactly the same as the one Ethan had just given me. But it was more dazzling and eye-catching than mine. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door of the private room. The noise inside stopped abruptly. Ethan seemed to have not expected me to come, his eyes were full of doubts and his brows were furrowed. It was his friend who stood up first to introduce me. This is our college classmate Luna. She went abroad 5 years ago and just came back today to catch up with our party. What a coincidence. His ambiguous eyes looked back and forth between Ethan and Luna. It was obvious that he asked me to come over on purpose. In the past, I might have lost control and questioned them on the spot. Knowing that Ethan had her in his heart, why did he let her appear when we were about to get married? Why didn't he stop them from meeting? But now I just smiled faintly. When his friend started to introduce me, when he mentioned the word fiancé, Ethan covered his mouth and coughed nonstop. Luna at the side tacitly got him some paper. She naturally reached out to wipe the corner of his mouth. After a while, he blushed and said, "Just a good friend." Chapter 3. My eyelashes trembled slightly, and under the gazes of everyone watching the show, I nodded along with his words. My palms were pinched by nails and hurt, but I tried hard not to let the tears flow out. He didn't want to disclose my identity, and I had long been used to it. After all, even our wedding was just a group message. There were no group photos, and no bride's name. I always made excuses for his various behaviors, and I was unwilling to gamble 5 years of love for the last time. But time after time, I was always the loser. I forced myself to smile and greeted Luna. You look better in person than in the photos, and the necklace is also beautiful. After saying this, there was no sound in the private room. Perhaps because he was afraid that I would embarrass her, Ethan hurriedly brought a glass of wine and placed it in front of me. Looking at the dark chocolate cocktail on the table, my smile froze on my face. I said word by word, I can't drink chocolate things. I clearly told him before leaving, but he forgot it in a blink of an eye. Ethan's eyes flashed with embarrassment. Just as he was about to change my wine, Luna reached out and took the wine glass from me. Give it to me, I'm not picky. Ethan's face flashed with anxiety. There is lemon juice in it, don't you dislike the taste? In an instant, it seemed that something exploded in my heart. The fragments pierced my chest, and my breathing was trembling with pain. It turned out that he was not unable to remember, but just too lazy to waste time on me. Luna giggled and reached out to scratch the tip of his nose. I often drink abroad, I'm used to it, it's okay. She put the wine glass in front of herself, got up and went to the bathroom. Ethan then sat down next to me and explained to me in a low voice, I'm sorry, I really forgot just now, I will pay attention next time, everyone is here, it's okay for you to drink a glass, right? At most, I'll go out and buy you some allergy medicine later. Don't think too much, it's just a friend I haven't seen for a long time. He doesn't know that we are getting married. It's too troublesome to explain, so, before he finished, I nodded directly. He never knew that I had given up sugar for a long time in order to be in a good state on our wedding day. I even stayed away from allergens that would cause rashes all over my body. The tears accumulated and my eyes fell out because of inertia. He thought I didn't know his first love and thought I had hidden it well. Then I would do as he wished. Playing dumb is what I am best at. Yeah, I know. No need to explain. He was visibly relieved. After the embarrassment just now, his friend took the lead in speaking to ease the atmosphere. He proposed to play a game. When Luna entered the private room, the bottle seemed to have been positioned and stopped right in front of Ethan. Chapter 4. His friends around him were all cheering him on to make his phone photo album public. The eyes watching the show looked back and forth between the three of us. Ethan looked embarrassed, and the person next to him said with boredom, "Don't you know that Ethan is getting married soon? The photo album must be his wife, what's there to see? Looking at social software is exciting." Another person joked, "Why didn't you say it just now? Next round, next round." Ethan blushed at the teasing, and his tentative eyes quickly passed over Luna's face. Then he took out his own phone and prepared to unlock it. Perhaps the light in the private room was too dim, and his facial recognition failed several times. Seeing that the phone was about to lock, he could only helplessly enter the digital password under the eyes of everyone. After entering 6 digits, Luna's eyes flashed. A teasing laugh came from the side. "This looks a bit familiar, whose birthday is it?" "Luna's." Ethan coughed lightly. "I don't know, I got used to it and forgot to change it." His friend was anxious and snatched his phone away. The next second, Ethan's photo album was exposed to everyone. Disappointment flashed across everyone's face. There were no photos of me, no work materials, and no gossip they wanted. There were only countless moons. 5 years, 1,900 photos. Ethan and Luna looked at each other, and the air was filled with their unique tacit understanding and romance. His friends and I seemed to be isolated in another space outside of them. My heart gradually fell to the bottom, and I could almost hear my heavy heartbeat in my ears. Soon, his friend said disappointedly, "What's wrong with you? Why do you take so many photos of the moon? Do you want to be a photographer? Isn't this hobby much more advanced than playing games?" "I appreciate it." Luna smiled sweetly, and her eyes were so gentle that they were about to melt water. It seemed that among so many people in the private room, only she understood Ethan. The first round passed like this. But in the second round, Ethan was still the loser. The condition this time was to choose a person of the opposite sex to kiss on the spot. The one who made this request was Ethan's friend who had been bringing them together. There were only 2 girls in the room, Luna and I. The noises of booing were endless. Ethan gritted his teeth and glared at him for a long time before he slowly said, "I'm drunk, I'm going back." After that, he raised his head and drank a bottle of wine, then stood up and prepared to leave the room. His friends left one after another when they saw that there was nothing to watch. The 3 of us walked outside to get a taxi. A car suddenly sped past. Ethan immediately hugged Luna in his arms. I was knocked down by the car and fell to the ground. A piece of skin broke where my fingernails had just scratched my palm. Blood instantly overflowed from the wound, and I clenched my teeth in pain. Tears of grievance fell from the corners of my eyes. The last night before leaving, I didn't want to show my vulnerable side in front of him. Ethan's eyes fell on me, and his eyes were filled with apology. He helped me up and was about to apologize, but I shook my head and said stubbornly, "It's okay, I just didn't stand firmly, don't worry about me. Your classmate just returned to China, so she shouldn't be familiar with it. You can take her back, I can do it alone." Chapter 5. When I said this, I could feel my heart was bleeding. Perhaps my sensible attitude made him feel guilty. Ethan rarely took the initiative to help me stop a car. He even pretended to write down the license plate number. After watching me leave, he got into another car with Luna. Back home, I washed the wound on my palm with hydrogen peroxide. Looking at my facial features in the mirror, I was so painful that my face was hideous. The tears that I had suppressed could no longer be suppressed and burst out from my eyes. I cried until my whole body trembled and my throat lost its voice, and my body collapsed to the ground weakly. In the early morning, when I finished washing and lying on the bed, Ethan pushed the door in. I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. I heard him hesitate and say, "Don't think too much. Today, my classmates are back to have a party. There is no other meaning." As he said, he walked to the bed and found that my eyes were closed. Relieved, he threw his phone on the bed. Turned to the bathroom to wash. The lights came on and I slowly opened my eyes. His phone was unlocked. I took it in my hand and took a look. The screen was still on the interface where he replied to Luna's message. The last sentence was, "Elise is my friend. My family urged me to get married. This time, I wanted her to act with me. I didn't expect you to believe it and come back to China for this. Why, you haven't let me go after 5 years? Do you want to consider getting back together?" My heart was instantly strangled by a huge force, and my breathing was trembling. Ethan has always been a perfect boyfriend in front of me. Gifts for every anniversary. Small cakes on every ordinary day. Every new model that was immediately put into my closet after it was launched. But only I know that he is loving another person through me. What he did during the relationship was just his duty as a boyfriend in his eyes, and it never had anything to do with me. His heart and soul only beat wildly for Luna. Even the wedding that I had been looking forward to for 5 years was a scam to win back Luna. The facts were in front of me, and I could no longer deceive myself. I covered my mouth with my hand to prevent myself from crying out loud. When I put down the phone, I accidentally returned to the homepage. The message in his friend's chat box showed unread messages. "Brother, I can only help you so far. Don't forget to invite me to your wedding if you get married with Luna." I immediately pressed the lock screen. I took a few deep breaths and opened the email I had just received on my phone. It was a notification from the overseas branch that I had been successfully recruited. I read it and bought a plane ticket to go abroad the next morning. After the payment was successful, Ethan's phone suddenly rang. He hurried out of the bathroom, and I pretended to have just woken up. He hung up the phone and glanced at the message. He met my sleepy eyes and said, "The light in my friend's house is broken. I'll go check it out. You go to sleep first, I'll be back soon." After throwing a word, he leaned over and kissed me on the forehead. Then he turned and strode out of the room. The door closed, and the last tear rolled down my cheek. I wiped my forehead desperately with my uninjured hand. "Ethan, you didn't even bother to lie to me once." I lay in bed with my eyes open until dawn. I got up, washed up briefly, and dragged my luggage to the airport. On the way, Ethan finally sent me a message. "Sorry, it was almost dawn when I fixed the light last night. I didn't go back because I was afraid of disturbing your sleep. Luna is going today too. I asked her to save a seat for me. She wants to watch it." I turned off my phone. I didn't reply to him until the moment before boarding. "I saved a seat, but it's the bride's seat. Ethan, let's break up." Chapter 6. No matter how long you struggle, you still can't escape the fateful ending. This message has been suppressed in my heart for 5 years. Finally, when Luna appeared, I sent it out. I turned off the screen and walked onto the plane. During the turbulent flight, I looked at the sea of clouds below and felt as if I was in another world. I thought that I would never have the opportunity to fly in my life when I was with Ethan. I mentioned to him countless times that I wanted to travel abroad. He rejected me mercilessly. He said he didn't have time and was too busy with work. At that time, I didn't understand his feelings, and I was considerate and made excuses for him. I felt that he was working hard for our future. I even took the initiative to speak well of him in front of my family. Until I saw the more than 1,000 plane tickets he recorded in the cloud disk. I realized how stupid I was. People who love you will take time to fly abroad even on a weekend. Just to have dinner with you. People who don't love you will never have time for you even if they sleep in the same bed with you every day. After being rejected by Ethan, I didn't dare to go too far. I once thought that I would never leave that province in my life, but I didn't expect that I would take the initiative to break up with him one day. I didn't expect that after the breakup, I was not defeated. I could go to a foreign country alone so bravely. My dry eyes hurt a lot. When I reached out to rub them, I felt a wet face. When did things start to change between us? Or maybe I didn't recognize him from the beginning. When I first met him, he had just graduated from college. We entered the same company through campus recruitment. Among the same batch of interns, he was too outstanding and worked very hard. I was attracted to him countless times and fascinated by him. Under the pretext of asking for advice on work, I gradually became familiar with him. He looked gentle on the surface, but in fact he was very indifferent. I slowly shifted my communication with him from work to feelings. He rejected me 3 times at the beginning. When I was about to give up, he took the initiative to ask me to watch a love movie. Until now, I don't remember what the movie was about. I even forgot the name. I only remember that my heart was about to jump out of my chest that night in the dark environment. I could clearly hear his breathing so close to me. Every day since then, we have become closer and closer, and more familiar with each other. I just don't know why. Once we talk about the issue of feelings, he is like a thick wall between me and me. I can't see through it, and I can't figure it out. But at that time, my courage seemed to be inexhaustible, and my hope was inexhaustible. The more indifferent he was, the more enthusiastic I was. Until the end of the internship, he agreed to my pursuit. The day of becoming a regular employee was the day we were together. I ordered a bouquet of black night roses to the company. I handed it to him personally. Chapter 7. I still remember the expression on his face. Stunned, surprised, and ashamed. In short, he was not happy. I didn't think much about it, I just thought he was embarrassed. After all, it is said on the internet that the only time a boy receives flowers may be as a sacrifice after his death. I thought I did the right thing, I thought I made him different from other boys. But in fact, everything was a farce directed and acted by me. My actions were passed on to the ears of the leader by the old employees. He was transferred to another branch the next day. Since then, we have never appeared in the same company again. That night was the first quarrel we had together. He said he didn't want me to be so ostentatious, he just wanted to have a low-key relationship. My actions almost ruined the start of his career. It added a failure to his perfect internship results. In the future, everyone in the company will know that he is a love-brained person who is given flowers by girls. No one cares which university he is from, what major he is in, or what grades he has during the internship. The leader transferred him away because he was upset about this matter. I argued with him, and he said I was childish, simple-minded, and that office romances were shameful no matter where they happened. At that time, I thought I had done something wrong, and I cried all night out of fear. I kept apologizing to him, and even said I would go to the leader in person to ask for help. I wanted to take all the blame on myself. But he didn't reply to me that night. It was a long time later that I realized that it was called cold violence. Because of guilt, I didn't dare to ask him for anything. I didn't dare to make trouble, but fortunately, he was able to do his duty as a boyfriend later. We talked for a year in a lukewarm way. Without experiencing the so-called passionate period, we fell into a dull life. The funny thing is that I was still comforting myself at that time. The dull life is the truth. Now it seems that being cuckolded is the truth. What kind of indifference is it? It's just because his enthusiasm is given to another person. He was far away from me, but it was just because he never loved me. It wasn't until I met my current boss a year after I became a regular employee that he told me. When the internship was over, Ethan personally went to ask the leader to transfer to another branch. He said he didn't want his feelings to affect his work. What's even more ridiculous is that when I heard this, my first reaction was that I finally didn't have to blame myself. I didn't ruin his important career. The leader has always felt a little sympathetic towards me because of this incident. In addition, I worked hard, so he promoted me as much as possible. In the end, I still rejected his kindness several times because of Ethan. If I hadn't found those more than 10,000 photos, I'm afraid I would have refused the opportunity to go abroad for him this time. Now think about it, if I like to go abroad, why can't I go by myself? We have been together for 5 years, but because of his words that he was hurt by love, I didn't even celebrate Valentine's Day once. As a result, he turned around and went abroad, and celebrated with Luna at the concert all night under the pretext of working overtime. The past scenes emerged in front of my eyes a long time later. The plane finally landed. I rubbed my sore eyes and sniffed my blocked nose. It turns out that flying alone is not a terrible thing. No wonder he went back and forth so many times. The moment I dragged my luggage out of the airport, it was like welcoming a new life for me. But just when I thought I was strong enough to survive the low period of heartbreak alone, the moment I turned on my phone, I saw countless messages from him on the screen. My broken heart was inevitably moved. Before the wedding, he seemed to be a little anxious when he saw that I hadn't shown up yet. "Elise, where are you? Is there a traffic jam? I'll pick you up, please send me the location." Unfortunately, our wedding was too simple, and even when he wanted to find me, he didn't know which car to contact. His tone between the lines became more and more impatient. "Haven't you arrived yet? Is it hard to get a taxi today? Why don't you reply to my message?" Chapter 8. My finger slowly slid across the screen. My vision gradually blurred. He hadn't seen me until the wedding started, and his tone was almost crazy. As far as I can remember, this was the first time that I affected his mood. He was finally no longer as calm as usual. Unfortunately, I can no longer see it. The last sentence in the chat history was a message sent half an hour ago. He cancelled the wedding and called the police because of my disappearance. In his opinion, I would only not reply to his message if I disappeared or something happened. I pulled a bitter smile at the corner of my lips, hesitated for 2 seconds, and replied to him. No, I'm fine, we have broken up, don't contact each other in the future, I wish you can get what you want. After saying this, I deleted and blocked his account. Because of his strong rejection in the past, we didn't publish any photos together on any social platform. Now that we broke up, there is not even a thing to clean up. After 5 years together, there are very few traces. I took a taxi according to the apartment address sent by my boss. The moment I got in the car, Ethan's friend called me. Looking at the name on the screen, my brows knitted tightly. I feel sick just thinking about how he brought Ethan and Luna together. I hesitated for only 2 seconds before hanging up the phone. I broke up with Ethan, and I have nothing to do with him as a rubbish friend. I thought our friendship would end with this phone call. Unexpectedly, he sent me a text message a minute later. Ethan is so anxious that he can't find you. He just called the police, and now he doesn't know where he is. I can't even find him. Can you please tell him that he is safe? I know you hate me, but I don't blame you. I was wrong before. It was only when you disappeared at the wedding that I realized that Ethan really wanted to be with you. I will definitely disappear from your lives in the future. Don't be angry with him, okay? If I had heard that Ethan could make me nervous before, I might have bought a return ticket on the spot and ran back. Then I forgave him without hesitation. In my eyes at that time, Ethan was a big deal. No work or travel could compare to his smile. It's not as good as being by his side and being warm and cozy. But now, when his name is mentioned, I only feel disgust and indifference. After reading the message, I deleted the text message directly and didn't reply. When the car drove to the downstairs of the apartment building, I received a message from my boss. He said that Ethan went to him to ask about my whereabouts. He didn't know that I didn't discuss it with Ethan before going abroad, so he let it slip. Let me be mentally prepared. When I saw this message, I tightened my grip on the phone. I hesitated for 2 seconds before replying to him. It's okay, he won't come to me anyway. He should be busy planning his wedding with Luna now. I am just a past that he doesn't want to admit in his life. I took a deep breath and walked into the apartment with my suitcase. Fortunately, the colleagues here are good. They not only led me to the door of the room, but also helped me tidy up the room. The huge suitcase only contained some daily necessities, and it didn't take time to organize it. After I was done, I went downstairs with her to eat. I casually asked about the location of a nearby shopping mall, hoping to buy myself a few new sets of clothes. But when I returned to the downstairs of the apartment building with a bag of clothes, I saw a familiar figure. Chapter 9. Ethan was wearing thin clothes and shivering in the cold on the streets of a foreign country in winter. He blew air into his palms and looked up at the apartment where I lived. When he heard footsteps, he turned around and bumped into me head-on. His tired and haggard eyes lit up instantly. Before I could speak, he came up to me. He took the heavy shopping bag for me. His tone was cautious and tentative. Why did you suddenly go abroad? You didn't tell me. The wedding has been taken care of, you don't have to worry. If you want to hold a wedding abroad in the future, you can wait for me. He pretended that nothing happened, and he was so guilty that he didn't even dare to ask me why I left. His humble expression was very similar to my past 5 years. Unfortunately, I only realized now that he didn't seem to be anything special. Maybe my love for him made me have a filter in my eyes before, but now I don't love him anymore, and I find that this person is just average. Before he could finish, I interrupted him and said, "We're over, didn't we? Don't come to me again, you'll only bother me." I never imagined that such heartless words would come out of my mouth. The moment I said it, I stopped walking, and a look of astonishment flashed in my eyes. He was obviously hurt by my cold attitude, and his hand holding the shopping bag tightened again and again. He kept swallowing. Finally, he hesitated for a long time and asked only one question, "Can you give me a reason? Didn't I explain to you that Luna and I are just classmates, nothing else? You didn't say anything at the time, why today?" I took over his words and said, "Why are you so determined to break up with you today? Why don't you believe you after listening to the reasons you worked so hard to make up?" Ethan's eyebrows were flustered for a moment, and then he calmed down. "What excuse did I make up? Can't you tell me what misunderstanding there is? You won't give me a chance to explain? Didn't you go to the class reunion? Why are you still making trouble? If there was something, how could I ask you?" I laughed out loud at his expression of not crying until I saw the coffin. "Your classmate asked me to go to stimulate Luna to reconcile with you, didn't he? He is still waiting to attend your wedding, you don't need to waste time with me. What is a misunderstanding? Are the tens of thousands of photos of Luna in your computer a misunderstanding, or are the 1,000 plane tickets a misunderstanding? Or are all the moon element jewelry you gave me in the past 5 years a misunderstanding? Or is it that the message you sent to Luna last night that you wanted to get back together a misunderstanding? Ethan, you can lie to me, but don't lie to yourself. He didn't expect that I would see the secrets he had hidden in his cloud drive for 5 years, and a hint of anger flashed across his face. You're looking at my privacy? Can you respect me? I just forgot to delete those messages. I don't have any other intentions. As for the news of getting back together, it was just a joke. I'm going to marry you. How can I get back together with her? Can you please stop thinking too much? How have I cared about you in the past 5 years? Why are you so suspicious of me? Chapter 10. I rubbed my swollen eye sockets in annoyance. Recalling the details of the past 5 years, my heart ached. You really care about me. Whenever you leave work early, you will take a detour to bring me a piece of chocolate cake from the gate of your school. I receive gifts on every anniversary, and I receive new clothes every season without my telling me. It's just a pity that chocolate cake is Luna's favorite, but it is a serious allergen for me. After 5 years, you can remember that she doesn't like the taste of lemon, but you can't remember what I am allergic to. Our anniversary gifts are all samples designed by you, and the exquisitely made finished products are all sent abroad. You also bought 2 sets of new clothes for the change of seasons. After I try them on, you will give them to her as a gift if you see that they are suitable for her. Ethan, I am not Luna's try-on model, nor am I a tool in your love. Every second you love me, you treat me as Luna's shadow. She has penetrated every corner of my love. I am really tired, especially when I found that behind every lie you said to me, there is a plane ticket to a foreign country and countless photos brought back. Do you really think there is any need for explanation between us? His face turned pale as I questioned him. The hand holding the shopping bag was shaking with force. I reached out to take it from him and turned to get on the elevator. This time, he didn't follow me. I thought our 5-year relationship had come to an end. I washed the clothes simply and hung them up to dry when there was a knock on the door. After opening it, there was a bouquet of my favorite white roses. Ethan's face appeared from the side, with humble pleading in his eyes. You said that you like white roses and me the most. I know I did a lot of ridiculous things in the past, but that was just because I wanted to keep my previous promise. I didn't mean anything else. She and I are a thing of the past, and I will never do that again in the future. I didn't care about your feelings before. I thought that after we got married, I would completely draw a line with her. I didn't expect that the previous things would be turned up by you. My world will revolve around you in the future, okay? Can you give me a chance to start over? There was only coldness in my eyes when I looked at him, and there was no love in the past. The more he showed his love for me now, the cheaper I felt before. The rose in his arms clearly showed that he was not unable to remember. He just didn't want to put in the effort during the 5 years we were together. He didn't want to waste time on me. Seeing that I didn't react at all, Ethan's tone became anxious. I know you don't believe me. I have applied to the company for a transfer abroad. Wherever you are in the future, I will be there. I will prove it to you with my actions. Seeing his red eyes and trembling lips, I suddenly laughed. Ethan, you said, don't let feelings affect your work. Don't you want your principles? I remember that in order to make me remember this profound lesson, you took the initiative to apply for a transfer to another branch. I felt guilty for a whole year. What is this now? His face turned pale in an instant. His expression was full of panic. I am. Before he could come up with a reason, I stepped back and closed the door. I never believe in reforming. I only believe that if you turn back, you will repeat the same mistakes. No matter how many times you read the same book, the ending is the same. The only thing that deepens is the emotions during the reading process. Everyone has only one chance to hurt me. If I choose to forgive the first time, then I deserve it the second time. I have had enough of the life of self-inflicted in the past 5 years and I am disgusted. Now I finally wake up from the nightmare and never want to go back again in my life. The next day when I got off work, I saw Ethan waiting downstairs of the company. He spoke to me with regret on his face and said that his application for transfer abroad was rejected. I nodded without any emotion. He said that he would return to China that night. I didn't look at him, but just said that I had to work overtime at night. Maybe he didn't expect that work would be more important than him in my place. Ethan's face was a little stunned. After reacting, he reminded me of the precautions of living abroad while booking tickets and calling a taxi on his mobile phone. I couldn't help but feel sick when I heard this. When I couldn't stand it anymore, I suddenly stopped and said to him, "When Luna first went abroad, you also told her the same thing?" This sentence completely silenced Ethan. No more sound. When I returned to the apartment, my former boss sent me a message. He said that Ethan's application to go abroad was blocked by him and asked me to work hard. I thanked him gratefully, and my heart was warm. That night, Ethan sent me a few more messages before returning to China, saying that he would come to see me as long as he was free. He asked me to wait for him. Unfortunately, all of them were blocked in the blacklist. It was a week later when I saw them. He didn't lie this time. He flew over again on the weekend. When I saw him again, I didn't even feel disgusted. It was like looking at a stranger on the street. Now think about it, maybe he just likes foreign love. As for who the object is, it doesn't matter. He implemented the same trick he used on Luna on me again. Unfortunately, I didn't give him any good face. When he flew over for the third time, he couldn't find my address. I had already moved to another city. My boss couldn't tell him any news about me. The messages I blocked on my phone were getting fewer and fewer. We were getting farther and farther away. Until one day, he ran into me in the arms of another man on the street. At that moment, I saw heartbreak in his eyes. Just like me back then. He turned and left without hesitation. He knew very well that he had no right to question me. Since then, I have never seen him abroad again. It was a long time later that I heard from my boss that he was fired in China because of serious work mistakes. I smiled indifferently and said, "Well, that's a pity, but it has nothing to do with me." So far, our 5 years have come to an end. The end of the story.